Hi and welcome to Bootcamp 2016. This is our second live broadcast as part of our Bootcamp series, and I'm Jess and Si. I'm the marketing manager for Crowdfunder.co.uk, and this is...
I'm Si. I am the partnerships manager at Crowdfunder.
So just to give you a recap on what we talk about when we talk about Bootcamp 2016 and what we've been up to. So we've been running daily uploads of tons of advice for you guys to learn how to prepare for a crowdfunding project. And this week we're going to cover how to create a crowdfunding project on crowdfunder.co.uk. So we're running these weekly live hangouts, which is what you're in today. And a little reminder about why you should be taking part in Bootcamp, because we've got £10,000 to give out to 100 projects. And that's your first pledge sorted. So it's £100 for the first 100 projects to add during Bootcamp 2016. So the other thing to remember is that Si, Graham, who was in last week's webinar, and myself are all on hand to help you create and run brilliant, inspirational and fantastic crowdfunding projects.
Yes, we are.
So this week we've got Si. Si's going to talk to us a little bit about creating your project. So we're going to cover off the different elements that he spoke about in his video. We're also going to talk a little bit more in detail about those elements and how this is going to work for you. So, before I forget, if you're going to ask any questions, this is really interactive. So if you're on Twitter or on Facebook or you want to contact us, just use hashtag Bootcamp 2016. We'll pick up your questions and we'll answer them live for you right now. So, Si, we're going to start off by talking about the importance of telling your story when crowdfunding. So it'd be really good if you could just sort of outline why that section is vital and what it's going to do for project owners.
Sure. So when we talk about creating your project, we are talking about putting together something that you will then drive any of your audience to. That something is a page that sits on Crowdfunder. And on that page, there are a number of things which your audience and anyone who's interested in pledging on your project will want to know about and want to find out. The way that you tell everyone what you're all about and what your project is through a story. And that story can be across two mediums. One is a video, which I believe we're going to talk about a little bit later on. And the other is a written description. So you can sort of think about this like a pitch, a written pitch. And it's where all the information about who you are, what it is that you're trying to achieve, where the money is going to be spent, etc. will go. For anyone who's interested in pledging on your project, they might watch the video, they might want to find out a little bit more, in which case they will probably read your written description. So it's really important to make sure that your story comes across well in that segment. I've got a few tips on how to do that properly.
Hit us up with the tips. I want to hear them.
Okay, so when we talk about the story, the written description especially, we want to make sure that we're covering who it is that you are. So what's your background? What's your involvement in the project? Have you done anything like this before? We also want to make sure that everybody knows what this project is all about. So are you doing it with an organization? Is it a sideline for something?
Is it a business?
Is it a business?
Social enterprise?
Exactly.
Community organization? Yeah.
All of that sort of thing. And people want to know exactly what the project is. So what is it that you're trying to achieve? How long have you been doing the project for? When is the project likely to come to a close? That's really important. You want to get people really involved and interested in what it is that you're actually trying to do with the project. The third really key bit of information is how are you going to spend the money should you receive the funding? And that sounds a little bit sort of formal and a bit boring, but actually that's really important for a potential backer to know. They want to know that if they give you some of their hard-earned cash, are you going to use it in a way that's sensible and makes sense? Or are you going to waste it? If you're going to waste it, there's a good chance they're not going to give you any of their money. So you need to prove to them that should you collect some of their hard-earned cash, you will use it in a way that adds value to your project. Those are the three things that make up the story, and they're really important.
Yeah, it's quite good. At that last point as well, the crowd are really wise, and they're going to want to put their money into projects that are going to have a real impact.
Yes.
They're going to get a reward back, because that's what we do, rewards-based crowdfunding, that's what we're talking about. But also, you know, these people, they want to feel really connected, so they're going to need to know your story and your storytelling. So if you think about, if you've watched last week's webinar, we talked about getting a team around you and people that can help with different elements. So if you know someone that's really good at writing content, telling stories, you know, maybe ask if they can help with your project.
Yes, that's brilliant. Final tip when it comes to the written part of telling your story, make sure you add loads of images and break up the text with titles and subheadings. What you want to avoid is writing a huge block of text on your page. That's very scary for someone who lands on it. There's a very good chance that they just won't bother reading any of it because they think, I can't be bothered, it's a massive essay. And there's a good chance that after that they might leave your project page without finding out more about your story and without pledging. So make it really manageable for the people who are potentially going to back your project. And
colourful and engaging and inspiring, you know, all those things you're telling the story. And that's just in the content. So for any of you with us right now, if you've got any questions, obviously use hashtag Bootcamp 2016. Yeah. I know I'm a broken record, but we do want to hear from you. That's on Twitter, Facebook, you name it. You can, you know, get in touch in loads of ways. So Si's done a really good job of talking about how you tell your story, your content. One of the really important parts of your project is your video. You know, lots and lots of crowdfunder projects have a great video. So can you just tell us a little bit about what it is in a video that is so important and why it's important?
Yeah, I mean, videos do make a massive difference. So you don't have to, it's important to say, you don't have to have a video to run a project on Crowdfunder, and there are plenty of successful projects that don't include any video at all on them. However, you are roughly sort of 50% more likely to hit your target if you do have a video. So it
50%.
I mean, if you can do it, you should do it.
That's a lot. Yeah.
And the reason for that is it's a really good way of getting your message, getting your story across concisely and in a way that's very interactive. And what we want to try and do is have somebody land on your project page, click play on a video, within 2 minutes know enough about your story to then go ahead and pledge on your project.
Yeah.
And if you can do that in 2 minutes, then that's brilliant. We know that the longer someone spends on a page, generally, the more likely they are to be distracted by something else, maybe emails come in or Facebook. The phone or whatever that might be. And there's a good chance that they might leave. And once they've left, you have to do all the work to get them to come back onto the page again. So when they're there, we want to get them really engaged with the project, really engaged with your story as quickly as possible, and then pledging. And the video is the perfect way to do that.
So you reckon 2 minutes is a good time? I mean, can it be shorter, a bit longer?
Bit longer, shorter's fine. You want to keep it short and concise. I would say 90 seconds to 2 minutes is a good amount of time for a video. And
I think I've heard that people pledge on people. So if you put yourself in front of the camera and you're telling your story and you're really, you know, it's that empathizing and that compassion and all the things that you're good at and you're trying to convey. Having your face in front of the camera is really going to help, isn't it?
Yeah.
And putting yourself out there.
Yeah. We spoke about trust briefly when it comes to the project description, and the backer needs to trust that you're going to use their money in a sensible way that's going to add a lot of value. That trust is something that's really important, not just in the written description, but across the whole project. And building trust through a video is one of the most powerful techniques of doing that.
It's like eye to eye.
There's a bit of an emotional connection. If I can really see the person behind the project, see the passion that you have for your project, then that will really help me in my decision to go ahead and back your project.
And we would know, you know, payday comes around and we pledge on so many projects.
We pledge on loads.
So actually, I'm quite interested as well in sort of what do you need to talk about in a video? If you've got stuff in your description, are you saying the same stuff? What's different? You know, what's important to cover off?
It's the same stuff. It's the same stuff, but you don't need to put all of it in there. So you still need to cover who you are, what it is that you're trying to do and trying to achieve in your video, and how the money's going to be spent. those are the core 3 things that you need to cover. You don't need to go into too much detail. If people are interested in one aspect of those 3 things, they can go down to the written description. They can find out more there. That's when you can afford to be more detailed.
I have a question. I have another question. What about the quality of a video? So, you know, some people can do it on their phone. They're like, hey, I'm Jess. You know, this is my crowdfunder video, and this is my idea. Others spend a bit of money and get somebody in with a big camera and to film. You know, what in your experience, what's better? And do both work?
That's a really good question. Both definitely do work, depending on the project. The thing that I would remember is when someone lands on your project page, there's a very good chance that the first button they click is play on your video. And so that video is essentially your chance to make a really good first impression. So any capacity that you have to make a better video, a higher quality with higher levels of production value, that will make you come across in a far more professional manner and will help build those layers of trust that the backer needs before they pledge their hard-earned cash on your project. That being said, you can totally do it on an iPhone or Samsung or whatever. That is absolutely fine, as long as you cover the 3 things: who you are, what it is that you're trying to achieve, and how the money's going to be used.
And obviously, if you know, it's a bit different if you're a big business raising funds for a new product that you're testing the market, or if you're a community organisation or you're a scout and you've got all the kids doing videos. So it does, again, I guess it does depend on the project. So we've actually got a question, Si.
Cool, good, like questions.
So it's Ben's Medi Bear, and he's contacted us on Twitter, which is @Crowdfunder UK, if anyone's interested. And he says, I'm looking for help on uploading a telly interview on my crowdfunding project. It's on DVD. Need help. So how do we do that? That's a bit of a technical question for us.
I might not be the best person to answer that. So how would you do that? I presume, Ben?
Yeah, Ben.
I presume, Ben, that there is some software that you can rip the content off the DVD, and then you might be able to upload it.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that's allowed.
The best thing to do, I think if it's his, I'm not sure. The best thing to do, email support with that one, because we've got developers in the building who will know the answer to that question for sure.
Yeah.
Once you've got the content and it's yours, we can help you with getting it onto your crowdfunding project. But
absolutely.
You need to make it digital first.
You're talking about intellectual property there. It's a bit deep for a hangout conversation. Okay, cool. So we've got another question, and actually, I don't know if I know the answer to this as well. So Creative Wedding Co. Hi guys.
Hello.
Is asking how many of the 100 incentives are left, and how do I become eligible? Really excited about their crowdfunding launch, which is tomorrow, which is pretty cool.
Brilliant. So.
How are those being distributed? It's the first people that sign up, isn't it?
Yes,
and then go live?
So it's all still available. None of the match funding is going to be distributed until the end of the 3rd week. So that's end of next week. If your project is live then, and it's one of the first 100 to go live, then you might be eligible. I think the match funding comes into play depending on if the project's been successful.
Yeah.
So it might be a little bit later on.
Great. Okay. That's pretty cool. Also, so Creative Wedding Co. You're launching tomorrow, but don't forget to keep tuning in next week for the video uploads, because I'm talking about social media, so perfect for you guys.
It's all about marketing next week.
Yeah, it's all about marketing. My personal love. So we covered off telling your story. We covered off making your video, and this is one of the most really sort of thought-provoking sections of your campaign, because now we're going to cover off how you talk about your target. How do you reach a certain target? How do you know how much money to get? Do you stretch fund? How do you understand if people are going to pledge on that target? So, Si, you've got all the answers to this. It's all in your head.
Yeah, so target's a really interesting one. A lot of the projects that we work with will set a target that they have to achieve, otherwise none of the money goes to that project. And that makes it really important to make sure that the target figure that you go live with is realistic.
Can we just be clear, that's all or nothing?
That's all or nothing.
Yeah, so that's realistic, all or nothing.
So we need to make sure that the target's a realistic number, and we need to ensure that we've got the audience there to come on and pledge on your project to reach that number, and that ensures that you get the money, and also you have a success story that you can then go on and shout about, and you can perhaps raise further funding from different avenues, grants,
we mentioned
loans, that's that
match
kind of
funding last week in the hangout, so it's always worth a check back on that one to have a look at how we work with match funding.
Yes. So how do you set a realistic target? If you are watching or listening, it's probably a good idea to get pen and paper out, because the easiest way to set a realistic target is by doing a bit of math, and it's not too scary. It's not very hard math, but there is a bit of a formula to it, and I'll run you through what that is. So if we have a target figure, hypothetical, this is how much you need. Let's say, for instance, that number is £5,000.
It's a good number.
That's how much I need,
yeah.
I think, to achieve the outcomes I want with the project. Is that a realistic target for me to hit? The math that we do is based on how many backers do I need to reach that target figure.
So backers, just to be really clear, we mean people who are going to pledge on your project. So how many pledges, backers do you need?
Supporters.
Exactly. Yeah.
And we know at Crowdfunder that across the board, the average pledge amount, the average amount a person will pledge on a project is £50. So if we divide a £5,000 target, or any hypothetical target, by 50 quid, that gives us, on average, the number of backers that we need to reach that target figure.
Right.
So for £5,000, we need to raise, we need to find 100 backers, each pledging, on average, 50 quid. If you look at that number of backers, 100, and go, I've got no idea how I'm going to do that. That's a really big number, and I'm not sure if I know that many people, then perhaps break out a part of your project that doesn't cost quite as much, and maybe run a smaller £1,000 project. If you look at the number of backers and go, well, that's easy. I've got 10,000 people on my email database and 3,000 on my Twitter page and Facebook page, then perhaps we can make an educated guess that £5,000 target might be realistic.
Okay. So what happens if you don't want to go for an all or nothing target? What is flexi funding, and how does that work in terms of setting a target? If you're flexi funding, you're going to get the money anyway, or you're going to get some money anyway. What does it mean?
So the target, if you're going for keep what you raise, the target is less important. It sort of becomes more of an ambition. It would be great if we could reach this amount. So
keep what you raise is flexi funding. So basically you set a target and you aim to achieve that target, but it doesn't matter because you still take the money home that people have pledged when your project is finished. Is that right?
That's right, yeah. Unless you are a charity, I would strongly advise that you go for the all or nothing model. On average, you tend to raise a lot more on the all or nothing model than you do with the keep what you raise model. And it becomes a much more powerful success story on the all or nothing. You can say, I tried to raise £5,000, I raised over £5,000, it was a success. On the keep what you raise, you might not be as likely to reach the £5,000 target. And although you might be receiving £3,000, which is great, it's not a success story because you quite clearly stated that you need £5,000 as a hypothetical.
It's kind of a success story, but not quite, as successful as you might want. So that's quite interesting. And last week, Graham also, so Si and Graham are very firmly in the all or nothing club. And then obviously a lot of people, because they're learning crowdfunding, they feel slightly anxious to take that leap into the all or nothing because they think, well, I really want the money to make my idea happen. But by following these bootcamp videos and really listening to the education that we've got, you really can learn how to hit those bigger targets and how to hit those all or nothing targets. And then you can overfund. So can you just cover that for us? Because overfunding or stretch funding, it's a little bit of an industry term. So I'd love people to know what that means.
Sure. So when you run a project, you go live, again, industry term, you go live for a certain amount of time. That's usually 4 weeks. We're probably going to talk about that a little bit later on. But that's your window of opportunity to tell everyone that you know about your project. Jess is going to talk to you about how to do that next week. Get them to come onto your project page and get them pledging. Within that time frame, if you hit your target, let's use the £5,000 as the number, the rolling number. So let's say that within 2 weeks of your project being live, you hit £5,000. you then have the remaining 2 weeks of your project being live, that window of opportunity to raise as much money as you possibly can. That is called overfunding. So when you hit your target and you still have time remaining, you go into overfunding mode, and all of the money that you raise is yours to keep. That goes to you above and beyond the financial target that you set. We find that to increase the amount of overfunding that you receive, it works quite well to set a new target. So let's say you've hit £5,000 halfway through the campaign, 2 weeks in, and you tell everyone that, thank you, firstly, that's brilliant, we've hit our target. But if we can raise £7,500, so another 2,500, then it means we can do X, Y, and Z on top of what we already think that we can do. And setting that new target is called a stretch target. You don't have to hit the stretch target in order to receive all the money. Once you hit your original target and you go into overfunding, that's all yours, regardless of you hit the stretch target. The stretch target is there to inspire and activate as many people as possible to continue pledging on your project, on your now successful project.
So that's pretty cool. That's target pretty much covered. Somebody did, Rebecca did tweeted in asking us whether we'd recommend all or nothing or flexible funding. I think we've covered that up.
All or nothing.
All or nothing.
Without a doubt.
All the way.
Back yourself.
So brilliant. Telling the story, making your video, your target. This is actually, the next bit's one of my favorites. So we're going to talk about your rewards. So what are people going to get when they pledge on your project? How are you going to reward all these amazing supporters that you've got? So, Si, rewards, hit us.
Rewards are good. So on your project page, you have a story, which is, as we've discussed, a video and a written description. The third main bit of content, actual stuff on your project page, is a set of rewards. So one of the 3 big things that you'll have to do, I say big, they're not that big, but in the context of creating a project, 3 big things are the rewards. And they can be quite scary to come up with good rewards or rewards that you think is going to work. It's quite a sort of, there's lots of back and forths and to's and fro's when it comes to figuring out what the best rewards might be. So
what is it? What makes a good reward?
Well, this is what we'll talk about.
Sorry, Sam, I'm jumping the gun here.
There's a few top tips I've got for creating a set of rewards which are really good and really powerful. Number 1, make sure that you have a really good range. And by range of rewards, I'm talking about price points. Normally, a project will start a reward structure at £5. If you're going for 25 grand, 50 grand, 100 grand, you might up that minimum amount a little bit to £10, £15 maybe. Most projects will start at £5. The other end of the scale, the highest reward that you're offering to your backers, will need to be around 10% of your target figure. So if we say that we're going for £5,000 as a target figure, we need a top end reward of around 500 quid, or at least 500 quid. And you break down the rewards in between, space them out. So you could go £5, £10, 25, 50, 75, 100, 250, 500. So that would be a total of 9 rewards for a £5,000
at different values.
At different values.
Yeah.
So that's the set of structure, pricing structure.
Yeah.
The second way second way I talk about having a good range is making sure that you cover lots of different geographical areas. So you might choose to have some rewards which are experience-based, event-based, where people can come to you. Maybe it's a launch party for your business, or some sort of tour around local woodlands if you're a trust looking after green space, for instance. That's really good for people who live in the local area. For people who live really far away from you, there's a very good chance that they're not going to pledge on that reward. So you need to make sure you've got something for people in the local area, but also people on a much more national basis. Usually that means things that you can post people.
Yeah. Can I just say that there was a project called Positive News. Now, they did a community shares issue, so it's quite different from what we're talking about. But they had pledges from 33 countries across the whole world. And that's what you want. Any crowdfunding project wants to be able to give a reward to anyone in any country. That's what you mean by like,
well, that's
non-geographical.
So I mean, that's another scale again. So that's international. So if you cover local, you cover national, which would tend to be post-based things, products or services. Products that you can post out. We then want to try and hit as many different people in as many different countries all across the world. And to make it very easy, that might be something that's digital based. So you could, for instance, send them something simple like a thank you video, which is personalized to the person who's backed it. That's great. It means that they don't have to pay loads of shipping for a product. It means that they've got something to pledge on, because it's unlikely that they're going to come to an event if they live in Australia, for example.
You could Skype them into an event.
Still brings them into your community, into your supporters. Maybe they're part of your customer base if you're a business. So that's tip number one. Make sure you've got a good range. Number two, make sure that the rewards you're offering are good value for money. Please do not price a t-shirt at more than 50 quid or even 40 quid unless it's a super duper designer brand, because there's something in a human mind which goes, t-shirt 50 quid, even though I really like what this project is doing, that just seems really expensive. I'm not 100% sure if I'm even going to get the t-shirt. It might be 3 months before I get it. So that seems like a lot of money, and I'm probably going to pass on this one. Make sure that it's good value for money. If you're doing a t-shirt, £20 or less. If it's a mug, 10 quid. If it's something that would normally retail for 150 quid, don't price it at £200, because the person will just not pledge.
Silly,
it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
So make sure they give value for money. And tip number 3 is, if you can build anything that's unique into the reward, then that tends to work really well.
Yeah.
By uniqueness, I mean something that you can't normally just get off the shelf.
Yeah.
Something that's a bit different. Something that if I pledge on, I know that my friends probably haven't done that, or probably don't have one of those. Maybe it's personalized if it's a product. Something that's a bit quirky and that is unique tends to work really well as a reward.
And I tell you what, the whole going back to the value for money thing, there's like ages and ages ago, I pledged on one of our projects called Elephant Box, and they were making aluminium tins that are lunch boxes. You can cook in them, you can bash them around, carry them around. Of course, it's going to last forever. So I was like, oh yeah, that's really like eco, I'm really into it. No, so I got one at a time when, it was about, I think it was about 20 quid or just under 20 quid. And quite expensive for a lunchbox. But now my lunchbox has been delivered, which obviously makes me feel really warm. I supported this business, and now they're delivering in a really eco-sustainable way. And also, they're retailing them at 25 quid. So I feel like I've got a real bargain. And that's sort of, we're talking months down the line from when I pledged on that project. So, and I do pledge on a lot of projects, but I really, that one's close to my heart. That's
great, and that probably is tip number 4 that you've actually just suggested there. If you are a business that wants to make lunchboxes, make sure the lunchbox is part of the reward structure. Yeah. So whatever it is that you're doing, make it very wholesome and bring people into what it is that you're doing. If you are renovating a local village hut, make sure that there's rewards where people can come and see the hut when it's finished, like have a launch party.
Yeah.
Make sure they can purchase your product if you are a business, and then you get the longevity of repeat custom. Yeah. So that's a really important point.
Another great reward if you can do it. And we mentioned a guy that did a crowdfund to renovate some rooms last week in his pub. So he'd run out of money, he needed to do it. Loads of the locals came in. They got really good value for money rewards to go and spend in the pub. So he's drawing that traffic in. But also, those who pledge on his campaign get their names written on the wall as you walk into the pub. So you're forever immortalised in the future, and the and the excitement and the brilliance of that pub's going to go and deliver to loads of people continuously. Yeah, and that's great. So, I mean, I'm taking all of my friends to the pub. Yeah, me too. Anyone who comes to stay, we always go to the pub. Yeah. Because my name's going to be on the wall. Yeah. I mean, you can give it a cheeky sort of, look at. Oh, great for social media. Like, there's my name. Oh, right. Sorry, we've got a few questions actually. Okay. So can I just whiz you through these quickly? Yes. Yeah. So Save the Ship have asked, what happens in crowdfunding if we've got a big project requiring funding? Are we better to have a series of small campaigns? What do you do? What's the plan? Save the Ship.
sounds a bit like a pub.
It does.
I'm going to suggest
but that's a guess.
save the ship. If you are a pub, or if you do have a really big project that's sort of maybe 6 figures or above, that you check out community share offers. We can help you out with those. They are very similar to rewards-based crowdfunding, and very similar to equity-based crowdfunding, sort of in the middle of the two, where you can sell shares in a local community asset. If you are a pub, it will be the pub, and that pub then becomes community-owned and community-run. We've had a lot of success in doing those. It's a really good way of raising serious money, sort of £100,000,
Yeah.
200, 300, 400, 500,000. And it all sits on the Crowdfunder platform. So if you go to crowdfunder.co.uk/community-shares, I believe.
Yeah, you just search community shares on Crowdfunder.
Then there's all of the information there.
And I'm just going to jump in, because save the ship sounds like it could be saving a ship. I mean, how amazing would that be? A community-owned ship. Oh.
If I'm reading too far between the lines, then
I want to own a ship. I want to own a ship.
If it's a ship, the same applies. You can still do it. If we're totally off the mark, and that's just a very odd project name, you can run a really big rewards-based project if you want to. There's no harm in doing that. We've done that before. But just make sure that you do the math on how realistic is my target. Because if you want to raise £100,000, then divided by 50, you need 2,000 backers. Do you have 2,000 backers in your audience? Can you convince 2,000 people to pledge? If not, maybe take a smaller chunk, 20 grand, 10 grand, and do recurring projects. So maybe if it is a ship, you do 10 grand to restore the bow, 10 grand for the sails, and you do running projects like that.
Yeah.
It depends on the audience size.
Yeah, and I'd like to say that we see a lot of projects that we help through various stages. So someone could do a rewards crowdfund and then go on to do an equity crowdfund, or a rewards and then a community shares. We're all about it. So it's really important to remember that we're not just about raising quick buck, raise your money, off you go. We work with Virgin Startup to offer loans, business loans to people. We work with Creative England to help them get extra funding in on top of crowdfunding projects, loads of stuff. So lots of different areas, and we're interested in your journey from real at the beginning right through and onto sustainability in the future. And we really believe in our project. So that's kind of the bigger picture as to why we're here. We've got a couple more questions. So
cool,
how much help are we going to give to people to help them reach their target? How's that going to, how much do we do? What do we offer?
How much help does Crowdfunder give to
what do we do for our projects?
We do Bootcamp 2016. We've got lots of match funding that's available, depending on perhaps where you are or the industry that you're in, or what it is that you're trying to achieve. We've got lots of partners that will help push different projects depending on if it's relevant to the partner organisation, if they have any match funding available. There is, outside of Bootcamp, there is a ton of resources that's all done by the Crowdfunder Academy. It's all made by the coaches. It's all very real advice based on evidence and data. We're really big on capturing numbers and data. So there's loads of really good advice on there about how to set up a project, create it, do the marketing. We've got an excellent support team. So if you have any questions, there is a FAQ page which is hundreds of pages long. All the questions you could possibly think of will hopefully be answered. If it's not, then you can email support@crowdfunder.co.uk. So in terms of setting your project up, there's a lot of help there, and a lot of help that's available. In terms of marketing your project, Crowdfunder is sort of by far the biggest crowdfunding platform that's based here in the UK, and purely just because of our own bandwidth, the volume of projects that we have, we unfortunately can't promise to market your project for you and drive lots of people to your project on your behalf. We would need a team of thousands.
Yeah, and actually it's quite interesting, big thing. It's not about the platform you're on, it's about your network, and that's why we teach you to build your network and really grow, because those are the people that are going to be pledging on your project. There is a percentage of our community, of course, that back on multiple projects, staff not included in that. And we know that people who love backing Green Party projects also love backing environmental projects. So there is that there. And we have got an amazing social media team that do some incredible comms around different projects, you know, and projects that are really flying, because those are the projects that have listened to how to crowdfund. They're doing it by the book, you know, and those are the ones that really sort of fly to the fore, I guess, for the social team.
I mean, ultimately, what the marketing team will say, as you all well know, is that we can potentially help amplify the marketing that you're doing. What we can't do is draw the people in from the very start. So you've got to show that you can do the marketing and you can draw people to your project, and it's a project that people like and want to support. And then our marketing team might be able to come in and help support you following that. Yeah,
so that's quite interesting, because also Joe asked the same question, so about how do we market your project. So hopefully we've covered that one off for now. I'm actually pretty stoked because Save the Ship came back and they've told us they are a pub. Hey, can I have a high five for that one? Well done, Si. Yeah. They're a pub looking for seed funding before going to a big offer. Well, actually, I think Save the Ship, we should be having a conversation with you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe not through a hangout, but, you know.
If you email into support at Crowdfunder and make sure Save the Ship's in there, I'll ask them to direct it to me. We can talk about how to do that.
Sounds great. We definitely want to talk to you, because we've actually done a couple of pub community shares offers and a load of other stuff. So, and the Globe Foy did a big pub crowdfund the other day. So
yes,
that's cool. Love that. We're actually talking through the medium of a hangout. This is what it's all about. So this is actually really good, really interactive, but we've got a couple more sections we want to talk about. So we've done your rewards. Oh, what about the final checklist side? We've gone through, we've done telling your story, making your video, setting your target, adding your rewards. We want to talk about the final checklist. So I'm actually just going to shout out to everyone as well. So if you have any more questions, it's #Bootcamp 2016. So come and chat to us online if you've got any more questions, and we'll answer them after we've gone through our mega crowdfunding checklist.
So this is talking about all of the things that you need to do outside of the core three: creating a written description, doing a video, and having a set of rewards. Then everything else that you need to add into the project in order to be able to actually go live and have that window of opportunity to receive the pledges and get funded. There's lots of really small bits, so I'll chop and change between them. And there's a few things like adding your social media accounts, Twitter, Facebook, so that when someone pledges, they can follow a pathway through which helps them automatically tweet about your project, telling everyone that they've supported it, or using Facebook in the same manner. So that's quite an important one to do. It takes seconds to do. It's really easy.
And Facebook's really important. Can you tell us why?
Facebook's a big driver of pledges.
Yeah.
So Jess will talk to you more about this in the marketing next week. But of the two major social media platforms, Twitter and Facebook, Twitter's really good for awareness. You tend to get a lot more views and a lot further reach. Facebook is not as good for reaching lots and lots of numbers. However, it's much better at converting people into backers.
Yeah.
Better bang for your buck.
I think I've read somewhere that on an average project, up to is that up to 30% of pledges come from Facebook, or can it be up to 70%?
Usually we see between 30 and 50%.
Wow.
That does really depend on a project's existing Facebook fan group or following, or whatever that might be.
You've just reminded me, Si, sorry to interrupt you halfway through the checklist, but somebody did ask, and this is, I guess, a good spot to ask this. Hang on, there's two questions here, so I'm going to hit you up with the first one. What are your fees? So what are the crowdfunder fees, and what do our project owners pay?
Okay.
So sorry, it's just slid it in there because I know you can answer that at this stage.
That's okay, because that's actually the next thing that I was going to talk about in the final checklist. So we need to make sure that if your project is successful, you are receiving the money that's been pledged. And to do that, we need to link up some accounts so that we know where the money is going to be sent to. They're your accounts, and there's 3 different ways that you can link to a crowdfunding project. One is PayPal, who is a company that's fairly well known. Chances are you might already have a PayPal account anyway.
Lots of people do.
The second one is Stripe. Stripe is less well known, still a very good, reputable company. And the third one is Go Cardless, which again, not quite as well known, but still sort of a very reputable company and used by lots of people across the UK and further afield. Go Cardless. You need to add at least one of those,
or else you won't get your money.
Otherwise, the project can't go live because we don't know where the money's going. Ideally, you want to try and add all three. You might do two, you might do one. If you can, you do all three. And to make up your mind, there's a few pros and cons of using each. PayPal is really good because loads of people use PayPal. Yeah. It's very trusted. Lots of people have PayPal accounts. It's really easy for them to pledge. Stripe is really good because it allows people to pledge via credit or debit card. So just like if you're buying something on an online shop, you type in the long number on your debit card or credit card and the other little bits of detail, expiry date, etc. And they pledge, and that money will go into your Stripe account on the other end. And the third one, Go Cardless, is really good because the fees are about half the price of the other two. So that's going to lead me nicely into how much does it actually cost. So each of those three do have a cost attached to them. It's a percentage of the amount that's being transferred. I actually don't know them truthfully off the top of my head, although I do know that PayPal is about 1.9% plus 20p. Stripe is more expensive, I think, at 2.3%, and Go Cardless is the cheapest at 0.5%. All of those numbers you can verify on the website.
Yeah, well done, Si, for that.
I think that's right. I'm not entirely sure, but they are all there on the website. You can go and check them out. And
what about our fees?
And so we take, providing that you are successful and that money moves from the backer to your account, the crowdfunder fee is 5% on that.
So 5% on what you raise is the crowdfunder fee?
Yes, that's correct.
Great. Okay, so hopefully that's answered a question. Do you want to have another question now, or do you want to finish off your checklist, which I so rudely interrupted?
Let's go for the question.
Okay, so Ryan. Hi, Ryan. Ryan's asked, what rewards can I use for an energy project? Good question. We love energy projects.
It's a good question. Ryan, quite like to know a bit more about what the project is and what it is that you're trying to achieve. Is it a product? If it's a product that supports saving energy, then you would absolutely have the product as your core reward. If you are in renewables and you want to set up a wind turbine,
solar panels on the Scout hut roof, maybe.
If that's the sort of energy project we're talking about, then you would absolutely have something to do with bringing people into whatever it is that you're doing. So you'd have a big party at the Scout hut, or you'd do a tour around the local area where the wind turbine's going.
What about asking your local pub to donate some food, a meal for two?
Absolutely, you could definitely do that. So work with people in the local area, see if they'll donate anything, see if they'll give you anything. If you're quite a big company and your brand name holds some value, then perhaps you could do some merchandise. You could stick your logo on some t-shirts or some rulers or mouse mats or whatever that might be.
Or ask your local biggest employer to do that for you.
Or do that. So it really depends on what the project is. If you follow the rules, make sure you've got a good range, make sure they're good value for money, and try and incorporate something that's a bit different, a bit unique. Try and think up as many as you can, then you're onto a winner.
Great. Okay, cool. So back to the checklist, Si. Sorry, I completely sent you off on a tangent there.
That's okay. So there's socials that you need to add in. There's payment gateways, we call them, accounts that you need to have so we know where to send the money. You need to pick how long the project's going to last for, how long that golden window of opportunity is for people to pledge. And it's really obvious to say, well, let's keep it open, let's keep it live for as long as possible. So if we can run a project for 8 weeks, which is at the upper limit of what you're allowed to, then that's more time for people to pledge more money, so we'll raise more. It's actually counterintuitive to think like that. So rather than staying open for a really long amount of time, it's much better to go for, like the video, short, sharp and sweet.
Yeah.
Raise loads of money quickly, get the money into your bank quickly and move on, start spending it and start using that community of supporters that you have, get the rewards out of that sort of thing.
Cool.
So I would recommend 4 weeks or less. I wouldn't go any more than 4 weeks as a duration.
Yeah.
So that's 28 days.
Cool. So
and I was going to talk about overfunding in this section, but we've already touched on that a bit earlier on.
Yeah, so that's really good.
Yeah.
And I guess from me, being a wholly passionate person about crowdfunding, the most important thing that you can do when you're doing this is to have fun, because at the end of the day, the reality is that this is your idea and your passion, and you want to make it happen. So if you're not having fun, you're not doing it right, and it is hard work. Crowdfunding isn't easy, you know. You've got to do your network, your socials, your targets, you know, find out who's going to pledge, all of that stuff, your description, your video, but you've got to have fun doing it, because, you know.
Absolutely. It's one of those things where you definitely get out what you put in.
Yes, that's what I was trying to say. You said it so much more succinctly.
So if you want to do really well, then it will be a bit of work. All good things in life tend to be, but it's really important to have fun while you're doing it, and to sit back and watch the pledges start to come in after you've done the marketing and you've told everyone you need to is great. It's a really exciting feeling. See the target going up, and then the money lands in your account. It is brilliant. It is brilliant.
So last call out for any questions, #Bootcamp 2016. I don't know why I keep doing it, but I think it's quite cool. #Bootcamp 2016. Sorry, Si. I know I'm bringing the cheese to this hangout.
How's you doing?
I just want to shout out to you guys a couple of opportunities that we've got at the moment. So I don't know where in the world you are right now, but if you're anywhere near Plymouth in the UK, right down in the southwest, there's like 90K's worth of funding right now for community projects, innovative businesses. So tell us a little bit about GAIN, because this is really exciting, and I'd love you to just explain what it is.
Sure.
And this is for people anywhere near Plymouth, so I'm sorry it's not as broad as you'd like, but there's loads of other options on the site, but tell us about GAIN.
So this is a really good example of what we have all over the country. GAIN is Plymouth based, and they're setting up a network called GAIN 20, and they want 20 really sort of radical, innovative businesses that are within commutable distance to Plymouth. So that covers Cornwall, Devon, Somerset, and actually the Isles of Scilly as well.
Wow.
And if you are an innovative business doing something a bit different, doing something a bit unique within those 4 counties, then you might be invited to be part of the GAIN 20 network. And that means that if you are able to fundraise £3,000 through a crowdfunding project, then GAIN will match fund that £3,000 with £3,000 of their money. So there's 10 spots available. Wow. There's all the information is on the website /GAIN20. If it's of interest, then you just click register, and there's lots of those all over the country, different industries, and it sits on the Crowdfunder website. So it's always worth checking out if there are any other layers of support that Crowdfunder has pulled in for you. We love trying to get match funding because it's a really good way of supporting you. If you have a project, effectively it means you have to raise half the amount of money you need. We can get the other half.
But you look at overfunding on top of that, because it might amplify your funds a bit more. So this is really good. And obviously you've got GAIN, you've got another fund called the Plutos Fund. They've put in some money to support development around Settle, which is in Plymouth. And you've got Plymouth City Council, which by far are innovating in the council scene, and they are putting what's called CIL funding, Community Infrastructure Levy funding, on top of community projects. So you could just imagine what this is doing for Plymouth, because Plymouth City Council are listening to what their community wants. They're pledging on projects that the community are also pledging on. I mean, it's just frankly brilliant. So anyway, if you're anywhere near Plymouth, go check that out. So I think actually that we might be done for today. Big thanks to all of you who've joined in with some questions. We love getting questions. So thank you very much. Oh, and come back next week, because it's my week, so I don't know whether I'm going to be asking myself questions yet, but we'll work that out. I might actually get Si and Graham, and we'll all sit in together and really go through how you market your project. It's a really important stage. So yeah, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thanks, Si, and we will see you next week. Bootcamp 2016. Cheers.